In a kingdom very far away, there lived a very wealthy but wicked man called Ade. Before Ade became a very wealthy man, he had his own fair share of the unfairness of life. His mother died while she wailed to bring him into this world, while his father died 15 years later due to a viral illness which would have been treated. But back then, Ade was only 15 years old, and his father didn't have enough money in his saving box to afford the required treatment. Ade toiled day and night to save up the money needed for his father's treatment. Hours turned to days and to weeks, but no one was willing to assist Ade, not even his relatives. Everyone avoided him and his father like fleas due to their predicament. His father eventually died painfully despite all that young Ade did to save his life. However, when everyone left Ade and his father to their fate, their dog, Bruno, remained with them. When his father was laid to rest, Ade stood over his grave and swore that he would do all he could to become wealthy. And just like everyone was heartless when he needed help to treat his father, he would equally be heartless to others as well. He loved and cherished Bruno for being there to keep him company through the hard times, even when everyone else deserted him. Fortunately, with determination and diligence, Ade acquired massive wealth. He was well known by the neighboring kingdoms for his influence, but everyone was equally aware that he was heartless. No matter how meager the sum that is asked for, Ade would subject the beggar to a very hard labor before parting ways with his money. But despite how cruel Ade was, he had many slaves and workers, mostly forcefully acquired from desperate people who came to him for financial aid, using their sons and daughters as collateral. Ade was so vicious and he was proud of his personality. But he spared no expense on Bruno, his dog, giving it the best any dog can have. One fateful day, Ade was on his way to one of his numerous farmlands with some of his slaves when he saw a very old woman sitting by the path he normally takes. She appeared to be in severe pain, holding her knee forcefully. The old woman saw Ade walking past and she pleaded with him. "My son, please help me with some water. I am thirsty. I can't walk and I've been under this scorching sun for hours with no one to assist." Ade looked at her with disgust, then shook his head in shame. "I would rather ask my slaves to pour all the water away than give you a drop. If you want my water, then give me your tattered clothes and cover yourself with figs." Ade mocked her with ease. The weak old woman shook her head in shame. She was disappointed at Ade's arrogance. But she wasn't just an old woman. She was the priestess of a very powerful shrine who visited Ade's kingdom to verify if truly Ade was heartless as the rumors said. The old woman looked at Ade and smiled. Then she stood up, showing powerful strength. Her tattered clothes and worn-out skin transformed into a very white robe and a skin as pure as water. For your harsh words, I curse you this day, Ade, that you would suffer the same fate as the old woman which you had previously scorned. Her skin was filled with scars, and she was always in pain. The same sickness would afflict you until you are genuinely compassionate to help someone in pain. The priestess cursed him and vanished into the sky. Ade laughed hysterically at her words. He dismissed them to be a prank and continued on to his farmland. However, the next morning when Ade woke up, he felt terrible and strange. It was though his whole body was on fire. The pain was unimaginable. He crawled to his mirror and was petrified at the sight of his own body. Just like the priestess had cursed, Ade's skin became scars, and he could feel pain from every inch of his joints. Ade wept at his predicament. Confused and unsure of what to do, he sent his slaves to search for the old woman. For weeks, they scoured the neighboring villages, but she could not be found. In a bid to escape his fate, Ade recalled what the old woman told him. The same sickness would afflict you until you were genuinely compassionate to help someone in pain. Ade decided to start helping out, outrightly giving random strangers money and rendering them assistance out of the blue. He did this for weeks, but his condition remained the same. Being frustrated, Ade visited the most powerful wizards and witches he could find. But to his surprise, none of them could offer a solution to his ailment. Most of them swindled him of a huge sum of money, while others outrightly confessed that his situation was beyond their powers. However, on his last voyage, he met a native witch doctor who did some strange incantations and told him that the only way to cure the disease was to sleep with undefiled virgins. Ade went back home with this revelation and did as the native witch doctor had instructed. He had the daughters of many debtors as slaves, so he began to defile their chastity. As he did this, he noticed that his skin stopped deteriorating and was gradually starting to improve. The pain became a bit less, and he found a bit of comfort. So he resumed further in that venture until he had defiled all the virgins in his keep. Yet the sickness remained. He realized that sleeping with the virgins wouldn't cure his ailment. It would only grant him temporary comfort. Yet he continued still. Being desperate to soothe the pain, he instructed a group of his slaves to cautiously kidnap virgins for him to defile. They hid at night and captured any virgin they could find and brought them to Ade, who forcefully had his way with them and had them returned by the morning. This continued for a long time, and ultimately his group of slaves extended to the neighboring villages to capture virgins for him. However, these virgins who were being captured and defiled were usually blindfolded to ensure that Ade's identity wasn't revealed. It became well known that there was trouble in the land, as almost all the young girls and women in the village had lost their virginity and became pregnant to an unknown culprit. The villagers were furious and charged to the king's palace in a protest. I have equally heard the rumors. I promise I will look into it. The king assured his people in a bid to pacify them. After several persuasion, they agreed to leave matters in the king's hands. Unknown to the villagers, the king was an accomplice to Ade's atrocity. Ade had visited the king when he ran out of virgin slaves and bribed the king with a huge sum of money to keep a blind eye to his atrocities. The king was greedy and accepted Ade's bribe. And each time the people would protest at the king's palace, he would nullify their protest with promises of finding the culprits, when in fact he was aware of it all. As fate would have it, the king had a very beautiful daughter whom he intended to give as a bride to a very powerful prince to form an alliance between their kingdoms. But his daughter had a mind of her own. She was in love with a commoner, and every night she would sneak out of the palace behind the guards to go and see her lover in the forest, away from the prying eyes. Unfortunately, one night, as the princess sneaked out of the palace as usual to secretly meet with her lover, she was captured by Ade's slaves and brought to him. Ade was oblivious to the fact that she was the princess because her face was concealed and her hands tied. He defiled her that night, and as usual, they returned her to where they had taken her the previous night. When she got home, in tears and pain, her father realized what had happened and was driven with anger and fury. Afraid of Ade, all he did was to leak a rumor that Ade was the culprit behind these crimes. This sparked a negative reaction within the villagers. Once again, they all came to his palace and presented their case to the king. They told the king that a particular virgin revealed that Ade was the culprit. The king pretended to be surprised and furious. If what you say is true, then you have my permission to do whatever you wish to the culprit. My guards will follow you and bring him here for questioning, after which the judgment would be left in your hand, the king declared. But he knew that Ade would implicate him if he was brought to the palace. So he secretly told the guards to freely give Ade to the villagers to do whatever they will with him. As the guards went to Ade's residence, the villagers accompanied them with sticks and weapons in rage and anger to exert vengeance. They arrived at Ade's residence and dragged him out. They pounced on him with sticks, calling him all sorts of demeaning names. His dog, Bruno, ran out in his defense, barking as loud as he could to scare the villagers. But one of them hit him with a stick on the head. The dog wailed in pain, with blood oozing out of his head. He crawled to where Ade laid. Ade felt very hurt because he loved Bruno so much. He rubbed Bruno on the head with deep compassion, with tears flowing down his eyes. As soon as he did this, Ade could see his skin gradually becoming clear and his ailments gradually fading. It was at that moment he realized what the priestess meant. You can't fake compassion. It had to be genuine if he wanted to get healed. He previously gave out money and assistance in a bid to get healed, and not because he genuinely cared. This was why he wasn't healed. But it was too late for Ade already. For as soon as he suddenly came to this realization, one of the villagers raised his sword and cut off his head. All of Ade's slaves who were kidnapping girls were arrested as well. The villagers took all of Ade's wealth and divided it amongst all the young women who were defiled and a few that were carrying Ade's children. The end.